What is God's grace? A lot of times you'll hear, oh, it's unmerited favor, and that's about it. Grace is a person. It's a person in John 1:14. Grace is a person. It also is a work that was accomplished. It's called the finished work. Grace is a finished work that was accomplished once and for all on the cross of Calvary. Every single one of these things were nailed to the tree, including anything that's oppressing you, anything that's overwhelming you, if it's addiction, if it's pornography, if it's whatever your trap is, whatever the devil's using now to hook you in your life, God nailed it to the tree. No one is too far away from the gospel of grace. He wants to tap people on the shoulder today and call you back into a relationship with Him today. That's a choice we all have. God's righteousness at Christ's expense. You see, because of what occurred in the garden, there was a separation between man and God. There was this eternal separation. And God wanted to send His Son to be the one who justice would be nailed upon that cross. So sin would no longer be the issue that separates man from God, but the only thing that separates you and I from the Father's love is one thing. The Father's embrace, His full acceptance is one thing. Choice, choice, choice. A commitment to have faith that Jesus Christ really, really was crucified. Really, really was nailed to the cross. Really, really was buried in the tomb and really, really rose again. That's the gospel. Plus nothing. Plus not your works, not my works. Plus nothing that we can add to it. It's not nailed to the cross, died, resurrected, plus baptism, plus resurrection, plus church attendance, plus communion, plus there's tongues, plus this, plus that. No. Plus nothing. It's grace plus nothing, and grace alone is what saves us, justifies us, and keeps us in the approval of the Father's arms. The Father's embrace is eternal. It'll never cease for he who comes into the embrace of the Father.
Which is the greatest commandment?
Love the Lord your God with all your heart.
And with all your mind.
And with all your soul.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart.
And with all your mind. And with all your soul. This is the first
and greatest
commandment. The first.
And the second is like it. Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
All the law and prophets.
All of the law and prophets hang on these two commandments.
The most commandment I want us to know. That verse we just heard sums up God's plan for us as a church, universal church, as brothers and sisters. He sums it up by saying, in the first 5 commandments, He says, I want you to have an intimate, pure worship with me. And the next 5 commandments are summed up by the next words, to love your neighbor as thyself. And I want you to know today, the sweetness of His presence, He wants you to love one another in community. He wants you to care for one another in community. And that's what is obvious. When I walked into the church today, so many people greeted me with such love and such care, and it's such an encouragement. As we're planning a church and we're with people who are very unchurched, their lives are extremely messy, to come here and be built up in the name of Jesus, to be loved in His name, to be cared for in His name. You are the hands, the feet, and the heart of Jesus Christ to me and my family and to Jesse. And I want to thank you. You've done more than you can even imagine for us and our family. Hebrews 10:4, there was one sacrifice for us, that was Christ. Hebrews 10:15, He doesn't look at our sin. Our past sins, that guilt and shame thing, it's gone. The chains are gone. Whatever it is in your life that hooked you, it's gone. It has no more power, no more grip, no more locks. Jesus set it free permanently. That means your past, present, and future sins. You know, the law has absolutely... I looked for 2 hours to try to find anywhere in the law that would pay for future sins. I couldn't find it. Only could pay for past and present sins in the Hebrew. I think there's over 600 and something laws. None of those laws could pay for future sins. That's why the Father had to send His Son. So sin would no longer be the issue. And relationship, no longer the rules, but relationship. So at this time in our service, normally at Grace Compass, this is where we were talking about that vertical relationship. This is where we talk about loving others. And the gospel of grace is an internal thing. It radically has occurred in our life on the inside. It enables me to do. It compels me to be. It encourages me to live and then do, not do and live. So finally, in our service, this is where I want to encourage you all to say with me, so what?
So what?
So what? What does all of that mean for practically in relevance in my life? So what? And I want us to think about some of the bondages that legalism we talked about before does in our life. Legalism is an attempt to what? Make us look outwardly. Remember, law, external, outward. So the trick is, he wants you to look outwardly spiritual. When I say he, I'm talking about the system that is governed by the prince and power of this air, that is governed by this world system, that is governed because it has your destruction in mind, but Christ has set us free. Christ has set us free. Legalism makes the death and the life of Jesus, it attempts to do one thing, make it meaningless, negate it. Causes you to resort to self-improvement, self-help, fixing yourself with behavior modification, fixing your image. This is the trap that I'm so passionate about the message of the gospel of grace. I'm so passionate, that's why you may hear in my voice, I'm so passionate about it, because I've seen so many of my friends trapped in it. Trapped in the bondage of legalism, trapped in the bondage of do's and don'ts, the do-not. I've seen myself attempted destruction in my life from this bondage, and I found grace and it changed my life.